I'll show you a real quick and easy repair here on a John Deere X304 that I just picked up a couple days ago. When I picked it up, I thought this hood was in perfect shape, which as we all know is pretty rare for a John Deere plastic hood. When I lifted the hood up here, I realized that this little mounting piece right here, probably two of them, are broken off. I'm going to show you how to fix that real quick, inexpensively, and if you stick around till the end of the video, I'll give you a coupon code with a discount to save on the product I'm going to show you how to use in this video. If this sounds like something you want to know more about, welcome to the Bald Eagle 242 YouTube channel. First things first, I'm going to go ahead and pull this hood off of here, put it over here on my lift. I put a moving pad down just so I don't scratch the top of it. Just unplug your wiring for your lights, and then this hood will just lift straight up off when it's in the up position. Alright, so I like to grab it here and on the opposite corner, lift that up. We're just going to flip this over and put it right here on this lift. You might think a brake like this is no big deal because it sits down on there. What happens is that puts stress on the rest of the hood, and you'll eventually end up breaking other pieces off the hood. Also weakens the side structure of the hood to make it more likely that it's going to break off. When you go to take this off, two here on this side, the two that are broken off on this side. There's one right here in the center on that side, one matching on this side, and one right there in the front, one in the front on this side. So take all those bolts out, and then this center piece will come right out of here. I'll warn you, when you take these out, these side strips are held on with those same bolts. So when you pull all the bolts out of one side, just be ready to grab that. That's what I'm talking about here. This piece will fall off if you don't hold on to that. This piece here is where three of these bolts on each side actually bolt into. And this one here in the front is still intact. Thought it was broken off too, but it's not. Once you get all them bolts out now, this center piece will come right out here. Just slide it back towards the back of the mower. So we actually only have one repair to do on this. This is actually not broke off on this yellow trim piece. We're going to try to save this little green piece very carefully. Take this bolt out of here. We want to save as much of the original structure and the original plastic as we can. Fortunately on this one, it does appear that we have not lost any plastic, so everything that belongs here should be here. And the product I'm going to use for this is called Plastics 27, made by a company called Cover Bond. And I'll kind of explain as I go here, but I'm going to turn this hood over so that the repair part is going to be down. This way gravity will be working on our side. So that's going to go right back on there like that. And when we get done, this is going to be stronger than what this originally was. The first step to doing this is just make sure that you get it clean, get any dirt off of it, and you don't need any kind of special cleaners for this, just soap and water. And this is kind of a personal step. This is just rubbing alcohol, 91% rubbing alcohol, and that just helps to remove any of the grease and oils that may be on here before you start, but that is really not necessary. Just an extra step that I like to take. Show you what comes in this kit. It comes with two of the IRF. This is an instant reaction fiber. You do get two of these. This is one part of the process. You get the instant activator, which is added to this. This works a chemical reaction to bond, so it's really, really strong. You get a reinforcing mesh. It also comes with a small piece of sandpaper. This is probably like 120 or 140 grit, something like that. Actually 120 says right there on it. And then we'll use that to rough up the area. You want to rough the area up pretty well after you get it cleaned, and that gives the fiber and the activator someplace to really bond tightly too. Now when I sand this, I'm going to come out a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch around this repair because I'm going to put enough powder on there to kind of build this up to reinforce it a little bit. So we want to sand this on the inside. It doesn't matter. The rougher you get this, the better it will be. If you're doing a repair on the outside of the hood, you may want to be a little more careful how far out away from the repair you go so that the sand marks don't show up after the repair. But they do sell a product that also will take care of that too if you want to put a really good finish on this. All I'm showing you here is just a really rough, functional repair. Try to get down in the little creases because the powder and the activator are going to get right down in there. And that's where they would really stick the best, is down in any of these creases and crevices. And I'm going to do the same thing on the piece that we're using for the repair. Sand that about a 1/2 inch up on the side because again, we're going to build this up on this piece to reinforce it. Sometimes these small little pieces are tough to sand, but just get them as best you can. And I will say, when you do this, try not to get anything down in that hole so we don't have trouble getting our bolt back in there when we're done. When you're done with that, should have a nice rough finish. If you see any shine there, you might want to just rough it up a little bit more. Then what I'll do here, like I said, alcohol, just spray this down Gets us a really clean surface to work with. Soap and water works just fine. Don't worry about this if you don't have alcohol. So prep, that's about all you need to do. Try to get this piece as close to where it was originally. That'll make sure our bolts line up when we put the other pieces back together. And now the spot weld, we're just going to take a small amount of this IRF instant reaction fiber. It does come with a little plastic spoon. I would just take like enough powder just on the corner of that little spoon, you know, about like that. Hold this in place so it doesn't move and form that around the outside of that. Once you get the IRF in place, go ahead and open up your instant activator. Try not to get this on your hands. And I will warn you too, when you do this, there'll be fumes that come off of this. Try not to breathe those fumes because you do not want to get those in your lungs. And then just very slowly take a couple drops, start slow. Drop that right down on that powder, and you want to fully saturate that. You want to be generous with it, but like I said, you don't want to do so much that you've got liquid running across your hood. And that will start that reaction. You can actually see a little bit of fumes and almost looks like smoke coming off of it. That tells you the chemical reaction is bonding with that plastic. I'm gonna let that set up for about 60 seconds, and then I'm gonna come around the other side here, and we're gonna pile this up around here and then activate it. And then within literally less than 5 to 10 minutes, this will be ready to go back together and should be a long-term permanent repair. This is just like a nylon type mesh, and this just helps to give some structure to that fiber. It comes with a little utility blade, but you can also cut this stuff with scissors. And I will tell you too, this stuff works on gas tanks. It's pretty much impervious to chemicals you're going to find like oils and gases around the garage setting. All right, and you can just cut this with like a blade. Don't cut your finger. Now after this repair is complete too, if this mesh comes out past the repair, you can cut it off too. So don't worry about if this goes a little bit out further than where your repair's at, we can trim it off. Just form that around there. I'll just sandwich this right over the top of that. I will show you too here with what we've already done. This is already spot welded in place. This is going to be much stronger once we get all the fiber and everything on here and the mesh in there. Go ahead and take some more fiber. You can be pretty generous with this. Don't worry about using too much of it. As long as it's not going to interfere with a component around this hood or your repair that you're doing. More is better in this situation. I'm going to build that up so it's actually using this edge here to help reinforce it. So before I put the activator on here, let me give you a little bit closer look here. So I've got that mounted up all the way around here. Get any off of your hole where you don't want to get it down in there where the bolt goes. Then the same process on a bigger scale. We're just going to start adding activator here pretty generously. And you will see this start to fume up pretty well. I saw the fumes were going the other direction when we did this there a minute ago, so I'm on the other side now. And just get this thoroughly saturated. And make sure you've got it where you want it when you do this, because once it gets hard, you cannot move it. That's what I'm talking about, putting too much on there. You don't want to let that run down your hood. Not a big deal on the inside, but if you do that on the outside where you're trying to get a nice finished look, it will leave like a white residue on there, so be careful not to do that if this is an area that's going to be thoroughly exposed. We're just going to let that set up, and then that'll be ready to go back together. Now I am going to do the same thing on this side, even though this side's not broken. I just want to reinforce that so that we don't end up with another broken tab. So I'm not going to show you the whole process on that. I'll just show you when I get done with it, just on the other side for reinforcement only. I did go ahead and finish up this side as well. And something else I'm going to show you here that I really like about this product, especially if you're going to use this somewhere out in the open, you can very easily just take like some Rust-Oleum, fairly inexpensive paint. You can with no prep work. Once this sets up, just go ahead and paint right over the top of it. Paint sticks very well to it, and it helps to hide any repairs you're doing. This is not as critical on the back side of a hood like this, but if you're doing this on a bumper on a car or something on the front side of the hood, this really helps to kind of blend it in and hide any repairs that you do on this. And this Rust-Oleum JD green matches the John Deere hood green very, very well. And that way if somebody's looking under the hood, this is not going to catch their eye like it would if you didn't paint it. And then we have a very, very functional, very strong repair there. It'll probably outlast the rest of this hood. I'll get this thing put back together, and then I'll do a real quick once over on the hood and show you what we've got when we're done. I know I showed the code earlier in the video, but if you go to the USA Cover Bond website, you can use the coupon code BaldEagle242. You'll get a discount on this product if you purchase it straight from their website. It's a pretty reasonably priced product, and it works extremely well on this plastic stuff like I'm using it on here. Should let that paint dry a little bit there, but it's getting late and I just want to get this thing back together here. So all I'm going to do is take the inside piece here and just go ahead and drop this back down in here. When you put these in, I'll show you here because I had some questions on this last time. This has to slide up into the front here. You can see this part here needs to slide all the way up in there. And that's what holds this together, so make sure you do that on both sides. So when you're putting this in here, there's a little tab right here on this side, and then this slides up in the front there. When I get this back on the mower here, I'll share some information with you on some other upcoming stuff on this video. I think it'll be a very exciting video coming up on that seat right there. One other thing I want to show you here before I close this video out. On these mowers, the most common crack is a crack straight down the middle of this hood. And what happens is you get somebody that comes up here and they pull this hood open just like that. And when they do that, the potential to crack that hood right down the middle. I want to show you something here, a way to prevent that. On the inside of this hood, on each side, there's a little catch right there. And that catches on this. I've actually taken this off. There's a little notch on this side that catches on that part on the hood. What I do is just take this bolt out and turn this around backwards. Turning that around backwards does not allow that to grab onto that hood, so it's not as likely when somebody jerks it open that it's going to crack that hood. The only real disadvantage about doing this is if you put this mower on a trailer or something, the hood is not going to have anything really holding it down. Now, this hood, the way it's mounted, all the weight is behind the hinge, so the chances of it actually bouncing up while you're just cutting grass or even on rough terrain is not very likely. If you want to secure it a little bit, you can just turn one of these around. There's one on both sides. Just take one of them and turn it around, and that way you don't have so much force to pull that hood up. But anyway, I hope that has saved a few people's hoods over the years. I know there's been a lot of comments down in the video about that, and it definitely helps to avoid that crack down the center of the hood. One last thing I want to share with you here. The famous John Deere cracked seats. I know I've got a video right now that just hit 1 million views on how to repair these, but I've got something coming up here showing you a very permanent long-term fix on how to fix these seats. It's a technique I have not seen anybody else do on YouTube before. I think it's really a cost-effective technique that anybody that has not only a John Deere mower, the technique I'm going to show you will work on any vinyl seat. It's something I think you probably want to subscribe to me so I can show you this video here. It should be out in another week or two, and I think it'll be something that you'll want to do on your mower just to avoid getting moisture and water down in here and to help prevent this from cracking and getting even worse. So if you enjoyed this video and found any value in it, I've got another video right up here that you may find interesting also. Till next time, guys, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate you stopping by.